The train's long whistle pierced the winter air, echoing across the barren, snow-covered plains like a haunting cry. Lydia Clark stepped cautiously off the last passenger car, her feet crunching against fresh snow as the cold immediately seeped through her thin canvas shoes. Her fingers clutched a worn valise and a weathered letter, the last correspondence from her fiancé, Charles Redgrave. She had read those words so many times she could recite them by heart. "Wait for me at the Dead Horse Gulch station. I will find you the moment you arrive. I promise you warmth, safety, and a new life." She believed him. She had crossed 3 states on little more than borrowed hope and desperation, answering a mail-order ad in a New York newspaper. An orphan with no family, no future, and no means, Lydia had leapt into the unknown. She imagined him tall, kind, a man who would give her a second chance at life. But the platform was empty. The wind howled through the cracks in the station's wood siding. No carriage. No cowboy with a broad smile and open arms. Just silence, broken only by the caws of distant crows and the rattle of a loose signpost. Inside the tiny station house, a wiry man in a wool cap, clearly the local clerk, eyed her curiously. "You sure someone's comin' for ya, miss?" he asked. She nodded, her voice barely a whisper. "He promised." The man gave her a long, pitying look but said nothing more. One by one, the other passengers vanished into waiting sleighs or on foot. She stood alone on the snowy planks, trembling in her patched dress and thin cloak, her heart sinking with the sun. As darkness approached, the clerk stepped out and locked the door behind him. "Ain't safe out here after sundown," he mumbled. "You need somewhere to go, you best find it fast." "I will," she lied. But she had nowhere. No one. With the station dark and the wind cutting deeper, Lydia forced herself into motion, walking in the direction she thought the Redgrave ranch might be. Her shoes, soaked through, froze to her skin. Her fingers were numb. Tears froze on her cheeks before they could fall. The snowstorm, which had started gently, now grew furious. It swallowed the path, erased her footprints behind her. Her legs buckled, her breaths grew shorter, and she dropped her bag without noticing. She made it just to the edge of a pine grove before her knees gave out. Falling to the snow, her vision dimmed. The last thing she whispered before blacking out was, "Please, someone find Metatanga." Luda moved silently through the forest, his footsteps leaving barely a trace in the deep snow. The air was sharp with cold, but he moved as if part of the land itself, alert, steady, listening. He had set out earlier that morning to gather cedar and sweetgrass before the storm worsened, but the winds had picked up faster than expected. Most men would have turned back. But Tatanka had long learned to live with the moods of the earth. He paused suddenly. Something didn't feel right. Amid the rustle of pine needles and the rising howl of the wind, he sensed a disturbance. The animals were quiet. Even the trees seemed to hold their breath. He narrowed his eyes and scanned the forest floor. Then, faintly, he saw it. Small, uneven footprints veering from the direction of town, barely visible now as the snow quickly covered them. A trail. Human. Tatanka followed, his senses on full alert. He moved faster, concern tightening in his chest. As he reached the edge of the tree line, a strange sight stopped him. There, crumpled beneath a fir tree, was a young woman. Her body curled in on itself like a dying flame, hair tangled, lips blue. Her shoes, if they could be called that, lay several paces behind her. Her feet were bare, red and raw from frostbite. Snow had already begun to layer over her back like a burial shroud. He crouched beside her, placing 2 fingers gently on her neck. A pulse, faint, but present. Her eyelashes fluttered. A sound, barely more than breath, escaped her lips. "Please, don't leave me." Tatanka didn't hesitate. He shrugged off the thick wool blanket draped around his shoulders and wrapped it around her shivering frame with swift, careful movements. Then, with practiced strength, he lifted her into his arms. Her head fell against his chest, skin ice cold. The journey back to his cabin was slow, the storm raging harder now. Snow stung his face, but he pressed on, shielding her with his own body. When he reached the cabin nestled deep among the trees, he pushed the door open with his shoulder and laid her down near the fireplace. He moved quickly, adding dry wood, coaxing flames to life, setting a pot of water to warm. He wrapped her feet in buffalo hide, gently massaging warmth back into her limbs. She didn't respond at first, but her breathing began to even out. After a time, her eyes fluttered open. She blinked at the ceiling beams, then at the firelight, and finally at the man beside her. "Where am I?" she rasped, her voice hoarse. "You are safe," Tatanka replied calmly. "Rest now." She tried to speak again, but exhaustion pulled her under. Tatanka remained beside her, watching the rise and fall of her chest. The storm howled outside, but in the quiet shelter of the cabin, a fragile spark of life had been preserved. In that moment, neither of them knew how deeply this night would change their fates, but something unspoken had already begun to shift.